Anthony Albanese just can't get a proper face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump. He's been snubbed yet again. This reality was revealed today when the White House rattled off a list of New York meetings for the president, and there was nothing for the Australian Prime Minister.
The president will also be hosting bilateral meetings with the UN Secretary General and the leaders of Ukraine, Argentina, and the European Union. The president will also later in the day hold a multilateral meeting with Qatar, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, the UAE, and Jordan. After these important meetings, the president will attend a reception tomorrow night with more than 100 world leaders before returning to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, Albo's best bet now is to try to grab a handshake in the drinks queue at that reception tonight with 100 other leaders. How humiliating. Our Prime Minister just can't get FaceTime with the leader of the free world, the Commander-in-Chief of our major security ally. This is a problem. This means our PM is failing in his job to look after our national interests. Speaking with me earlier today, former Prime Minister Scott Morrison underlined the importance of FaceTime.
There's no substitute for leaders getting to know one another face to face. That was certainly my experience, and I continue to have good relationships with many to this day.
Yeah, and one of them is Trump. Morrison is still on good terms with the US president, but he hasn't put in a good word for Albanese yet.
I'll leave them to do their job. If they haven't asked me to. Let's put it that way. And I doubt they will, Chris. I don't know. I'm on the top of the call sheet.
I'll have that full interview later in the program. But let's talk about the possible reasons why Donald Trump hasn't made time for Anthony Albanese. First, Albanese has said stupid things in the past.
We have an alliance with the US. We've got to deal with him. But that doesn't mean that you're uncritical about it. He scares the shit out of me.
And then not only has a previous Labor Prime Minister said similar things and worse,
that this madman called Trump could have been elected.
The United States in the last 4 years has been run by a village idiot.
but Albanese was silly enough to appoint Rudd as ambassador to Washington. So the Trump administration is confronted with a Trump-hating former PM as ambassador trying to pitch a meeting with a Trump-hating incumbent Prime Minister. This is diplomatic self-harm on a grand scale. And I've got to say, we predicted it here many moons ago. And then there is, of course, the policy issues. Not only are there legitimate gripes over tariffs and the worrying uncertainty over the AUKUS deal, but now Australia is going all in on net zero when Trump has abandoned the Paris Agreement again. And just when Israel and the United States are desperate for friends in the war against Hamas, Australia has abandoned years of solidarity with Israel and cooperation with the US at the United Nations, deciding instead to recognise the non-existent state of Palestine.
The president has been very clear. He disagrees with this decision. He spoke about that in the UK, standing right next to his friend, Prime Minister Starmer. And he feels this does not do anything to release the hostages, which is the primary goal right now in Gaza, does nothing to end this conflict and bring this war to a close. And frankly, he believes it's a reward to Hamas.
Yeah, apart from pulling the wrong rein in the Middle East, Albanese has deliberately parted company with US diplomacy. And he wonders why Trump isn't super keen to meet him. Back in Australia, Albanese's colleagues are spinning so hard that they're getting dizzy.
Donald Trump is meeting a list of world leaders, and quite an extensive one at that. Why not us again?
G'day, Kenny. I think we should see this as a good thing because it means that the president, who's been meeting with world leaders to try and reach agreements on trade policy. He's trying to do deals with other nations around tariffs and trade policy. He doesn't need to do that with Australia.
Yeah, it's good that Donald Trump doesn't want to meet Albo. If that's the case, why did our PM bother going to the US? He should have stayed home and not invited himself to the ball and then avoided being stuck between the Don and New York City. Back on the policy substance of the day, the Albanese government continues to demonise Israel.
Right now, Gaza is in the grip of a humanitarian catastrophe, and the Israeli government must accept its share of responsibility.
Well, sure, but isn't Hamas the main problem in Gaza? Why isn't Hamas portrayed as the architect of the humanitarian disaster? Why does Australia portray Israel as the problem, as the aggressor? Albanese doesn't understand what's at stake here. He approaches the issues with all the insight of the anti-Israel street protester that he once was. I mean, listen to this from the PM yesterday, responding to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's objection to Palestinian recognition.
Well, he, of course, has a view, but he doesn't speak for every Israeli.
He's the democratically elected Prime Minister of Israel. I mean, does Albanese speak for all Australians? I think not. I know he doesn't speak for me. I'm appalled by his shallow and spineless diplomacy. Listen to this nonsense.
We have been clear. The terrorist organisation Hamas can have no role in Palestine's future.
Hamas can have no role in Palestine's future. That sounds nice, doesn't it? But Albanese wants to stop Israel's action to eliminate Hamas. His calls for a ceasefire are calls to leave Hamas in charge. So if Hamas is to have no role and Israel should not defeat it, doesn't this mean that Hamas needs to surrender now, hand over the hostages and lay down their arms? Why can't Albanese even bring himself to accept that reality and call for it? Maybe because he knows it won't happen. This whole exercise is fanciful. We have our Prime Minister promoting a non-solution for a real problem, recognising a non-existent state as real, even though it fulfils none of the established criteria for statehood, and the pretense is exposed even by the government's own language. Here's the PM in New York.
Today I'm pleased to be here with Minister Wong to announce that effective today, Sunday the 21st of September 2025, the Commonwealth of Australia recognises the state of Palestine.
And yet here is the Deputy Prime Minister today in Tasmania.
The government has taken a position in respect of the recognition of Palestine, which recognises the legitimate aspiration of the Palestinian people to statehood.
Not a state, but an aspiration for a state. So Australia has recognised that which does not exist. It is merely an aspiration, yet Albanese pretends we have recognised it. I aspire to win the lottery, but so far nobody has recognised that for me. Perhaps we should just recognise that we've met net zero. That would save a lot of hassle and expense. And it gets even more desperate. Listen to the Foreign Minister Penny Wong on the ABC today.
The opposition of Australia running a rogue foreign policy is not in the nation's interests.
What a loathsome attack. Rogue foreign policy. Wong says it's against the national interest for the coalition to have a different policy to Labor. Does she want a one-party state? In keeping with Labor's grip on these issues, this is the opposite to reality because the coalition policy is the same one that Australia has had for 8 decades. Support for Israel as the only democracy in the Middle East and refusal to reward terrorism. It's Labor that's gone rogue. It's Wong and Albanese who have trashed our national interest by caving into Hamas. And listen to this disgraceful slight against Israel.
We're working to try and find a way to bring about peace in circumstances where the combatants And certainly the State of Israel is not seeking to end this conflict.
She said Israel is not seeking to end this war. Over the past 2 years, Israel has defended itself against attacks from Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Islamic Republic of Iran. It has been attacked from the north, from the east, and from the south, and it continues to fight against Hamas terrorists who are deliberately prolonging war inside Gaza. Even though they can't win, they just want to inflict more pain on Israel and more horrors on their own people. And yet Wong accuses Israel of not wanting to end the war. Wong and Albanese choose to believe the Palestinian Authority leader, who was elected 20 years ago and hasn't faced an election since, and has been paying terrorists, including the families of suicide bombers, all along.
Hamas will have no role in governing. Hamas and other factions must surrender their weapons to the Palestinian Authority. We underline our commitment to organize presidential and parliamentary elections after the end of the war, and within 1 year we will draft an interim constitution within 3 months to ensure the transfer of power from the authority to the state.
If you believe any of that, you have not followed Middle Eastern affairs for more than a few minutes. Yet our government believes that. And our Prime Minister identifies more with that nonsense than he does with the US President's pleas not to reward terrorism. Albanese takes the side of a supporter and funder of Islamist terrorism over the viewpoint of the United States. Albanese is welcomed in communist China for a week, but can't get a single meeting with the US President. I don't think I've seen Australia's foreign policy stance ever as weak, as insignificant, or as dangerous as it is right now.